survived it. So May 2003, I got a call that my eldest brother was in a hospital in Valdosta, Georgia. I drove 2 hours each day, every other day for a month visiting him, but a blood clot took his life, and we buried my mother's firstborn child in May of 2003. Fast forward 6 months, early December, I got the call, no mama wants to get. My college-age son had stopped for a Mountain Dew and a candy bar for his girlfriend and was murdered by a stranger in a gas station, sitting in the driver's seat of his own car. And I know a lot of folks will want to breathe right now. He became an organ donor the next morning, and that was tough. And I had 2 children besides him, his younger brothers, and all of us were just grief-stricken because grief changes you. Grief rewires your brain. Routines that you usually did are all gone because that's what you really need.
Welcome to the Self-Care Goddess podcast, where healing stories, practical self-care strategies, and science-backed tools to regulate stress, feel calm, grounded, and energized come together to help you reclaim your vitality. I'm your host, Rita Savoya, holistic nutritionist, trauma-informed breathwork coach, and founder of Breathwork Barista. This podcast is for women who are ready to restore their energy and radiance, reconnect with their bodies, reawaken their inner power, and redefine self-care as a way of being. Through science meets soul practices, restorative mind-body tools, and real stories of transformation, we'll explore how true well-being can help you live with more joy, vibrant health, and authentic connection to yourself and those you love. Take a deep breath in, let it go, and let's begin. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Self-Care Goddess podcast with today's theme, Mending with Gold, transforming grief, loss, and trauma into strength and beauty. A topic that is very, very close to my heart. So I am so excited to speak to our expert today, Sylvia. But before we do that, let's get into coherence for just a couple of moments, getting our heart, our mind, and our body into coherence so that we can tune out the outer world and just go within. So I invite you, if you're able to, either lower your gaze or even close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, and just notice the breaths entering your body, preferably through the nose and out through the nose. If you're feeling congested and this might be a little tough for you, you can also do in through the nose and out through your mouth. Just a couple of deep breaths in, expanding on the inhales, the chest, the belly, and then on the exhales, deepening those exhales and just letting it go. Letting go of any tension, any stiffness, any discomfort that you may be feeling in your body, tuning into that discomfort, and then just allowing the exhales to soften. Just a couple of more breaths. I invite you to deepen those breaths just a little bit more. And by deepening, I mean maybe extending the inhales, making them a little bit longer than your usual normal breaths. And then see if you can extend the exhales even a little more than your inhales. And now I invite you to channel these inhales and exhales into the area of the heart. So allowing these breaths to come in and out of your heart area. Where attention goes, energy flows. So let's energize this beautiful organ that's keeping you alive. And as you continue these heart-focused breaths, I invite you to visualize someone that you're grateful for today. Visualize them as if they were right here in front of you. Acknowledge them, smile, and radiate all the love, the gratitude, and the appreciation from your heart to their heart. And now I invite you to turn this love, this appreciation and gratitude, turn it towards yourself and send yourself some love for being here, taking the time out of your busy schedule for some self-care and self-love. On your next inhale, flutter your eyes open and come back to us. Welcome back, and thank you for participating in that quick coherence technique from the HeartMath Institute. So today, it's an absolute honor to welcome today's guest to the Self-Care Goddess podcast, a woman whose story and message embody the very heart of resilience, transformation, and hope. Sylvia Moore Myers is an acclaimed author, grief recovery expert, and certified mental health coach with over 30 years of experience guiding others through the darkest valleys of loss and trauma. After the unimaginable loss, Sylvia embarked on an 18-year journey to understand and heal from profound grief, not just her own, but the pain so many of us carry in silence. She is the founder and CEO of Gold Scars LLC and the creator of the SCAR framework, which she uses to help others beautifully mend from grief, loss, and trauma. Through her initiatives, including 7 to Heal and her powerful book, Gold Scars, How to Beautifully Mend from Grief, Loss, and Trauma, Sylvia encourages us to see our scars not as marks of suffering, but as symbols of strength, growth, and beauty. Sylvia's work reminds us that grief is not a journey to be rushed, but a lifelong process that with patience and self-compassion could lead to deep healing and even joy. Her compassionate guidance and willingness to share her own raw, unfiltered truth have inspired countless individuals to embrace their stories and transform pain into purpose. Sylvia, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, Rita, thank you. I'm wonderful. And thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So yes, this is a very tough conversation that I'm sure we'll have, but at the end, so fruitful and so insightful. And by tough, I mean, I also lost my aunt. And this is why I'm doing this podcast, Sylvia, by the way. I dedicated this podcast to her. And the grief I was feeling when she left us was just unimaginable. So I'm very, very excited to talk to you today and get your insights. But before we start, maybe a little bit more on your personal journey and what's influenced your Pain to Purpose mission.
Sure. I usually tell people everyone asks me about resilience. That's the first thing. It's like, well, tell us about resilience. What does that mean? It's like, well, when I talk about resilience, I don't talk about grit. I don't talk about hustle. I don't start with triumph or successes. I start with scars because we're humans. We have this ability called resilience. And I truly believe it's a superpower that no other species on planet possesses. Other creatures heal. The chameleon, sea cucumber, they just heal. The humans, we don't heal like that. We were created, designed to scar. And tapping into resilience, that's really starting the mending process. So what happened? You want me to start with that story? Because I don't mind. We can start with what happened and got me here to this point, if you like. So 2003, and again, going back a little bit further, I was and I apologize, sorry. I grew up learning about resilience really the hard way. I had an unnurturing mother, wonderful mother, but totally unnurturing. She was undiagnosed Asperger, very intelligent, but I don't think I ever remember holding her hand or sitting on her lap. But my grandmother was my nurturer, and I lost her at 7. And my world kind of crushed down a little bit. And my babysitter, a few years later, committed suicide. I was around 8 or 9 at that time. And because I was also an undiagnosed autistic person, that's why you'll see a couple of delays in my speech on occasion. But I was bullied in grade school and junior high. And like most intelligent autistic girls, I learned to mask by high school. And I got through high school without a lot of issues. But after high school, the bulliers began to be husband, boyfriends, work related bosses, and those kind of people that want to control you and try to make you and shape you and make you small. I walked away from my last law firm and started my own business in the 90s. And that was resilience right there. I was just saying, enough. I've had enough. I married a nice man. We had a beautiful family, got a house. And I thought, finally, life is going to be normal for me. Yay. But grief is a sneaky bitch, and I'm sorry, it's true. So May 2003, I got a call that my eldest brother was in a hospital in Valdosta, Georgia. I drove 2 hours each day, every other day for a month visiting him, but a blood clot took his life, and we buried my mother's firstborn child in May of 2003. Fast forward 6 months. Early December, I got the call, no mama wants to get. My college-age son had stopped for a Mountain Dew and a candy bar for his girlfriend and was murdered by a stranger in a gas station, sitting in the driver's seat of his own car. And I know a lot of folks will want to breathe right now. He became an organ donor the next morning, and that was tough. And I had two children besides him, his younger brothers, and all of us were just grief-stricken because grief changes you. Grief rewires your brain. Routines that you usually did are all gone now. They change. The things that you might have done. You're the cook at the house. You're the cleaner. Those roles begin to change, and we're not even sure why. Um, your relationships, your love, your feelings for other people, they are destroyed during that time, and eventually they can come back. But in a lot of cases, marriages don't make it, and our marriage wasn't broken. Someone murdered our child. So my marriage failed. 4 months later, I buried my best friend. 8 months after my son's murder, I'm on my way home and I'm being followed by a want-to-be serial killer. I was his fourth victim, not his first. And he accosted me in my own driveway. My two children were just inside the door on the other side. And I fought for my life. I got his license plate number, and the PTSD that had already settled into my body and my brain and my soul was intensified. It was a massive grief-stricken PTSD, afraid of my own shadow kind of experience. And it took several years, and I still felt the same. And I could not make that pain go away. I tell people I was running around looking for an eraser to get rid of all of it, and I should have been looking for a highlighter because that's what you really need. And what I discovered as I went through grief recovery is, first, everything that you need to heal yourself from grief, loss, and trauma is already inside of you. It's right there. You've got to tap into it, like the shoes on Dorothy. If you click them, you go home. It's simple, but most people don't know the pathway to get there. Correct? Basically, her story, that was gold scars for me. And that became my framework, and that's why I use scar is that superpower that you set into motion. Strength, S for strength, C for courage, because it's actually easier to stay in grief and wallow around in it than it is to want to get out of it.
Mm.
Strength is just the decision that you want to do it. Courage is that you actually get up and make that first step. And most of us are comfortable in our grief. Strange, but true. A is for adaptability. That's learning to pivot and adjust and live forward even when your future looks like nothing you ever planned. It's adaptability, and it's pre-wired in our brain also. And then resilience, that superpower, God-given superpower that is able to take on anything that happens to you, no matter how unbearable. And resilience is exactly how we bounce back. Resilience, you think of a rubber band, right? It's bouncing back. It's how you find new purpose. It's how, I love to say, from the ashes of disaster come the roses of success or life.
Mm.
And so when I tell that story, when I realized that story and the truth about it, I kind of set out to tell the world because I was wounded, totally wounded. And when I started to heal those wounds, when I started to forgive or forget or just deal with that emotion that was connected to the trauma that had happened to me, I began to heal or mend. Remember, we always have scars. If you're going to have a scar, why not beautifully mend, right? So that's where gold scars came from. the kintsugi tradition of filling something that you cherish with gold rather than tossing it in the garbage. And once you do, it's more beautiful, it's more resilience. You cherish it even more for that reason. And that's what we are, because people with wounds are looking for people with scars. So when you get to the point where you go, wow, I'm really truly mending, now it's time to pay it forward, because someone who's wounded right now is looking for you to tell them, how'd you do it? How did you get there?
Wow. Wow. Yeah. It's I'm speechless for once, I think, on this podcast. And I'm just very taken.
Everyone needs to do that breath again.
Exactly.
I
It's
tell
just
folks, when
so
you're reading my book and you get to about page 85, it's time to lay it down and breathe.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, so
life is real and life is hard and life is horrible sometimes. My job is to
exactly.
help you find your path down that yellow brick road to the things that you have inside of you that can help you to heal and at least mend.
Exactly. So many questions I have.
Go
I
ahead.
don't even know where to start, but I will. I'll just ask you the questions.
Sure.
So you talked a little bit about the forgiveness and forgetting, because I was going to ask you, what role does forgiveness play in helping you to move through those stages of your framework?
Absolutely. That was a power play. I had no idea the number of people that I had to forgive or forget or just resolve, because some people
Mhm.
don't deserve forgiveness, do they? Not really. Not really. But they deserve resolution. For example, I was accosted by a person. He injured my body physically. I can't forgive him for what he did, in the sense that it's like, it's thank you for hurting me and hurting my body, and I appreciate you. No, that you don't do it that way. You just say, you know, I'll make up a name, Bill. What you did to me was terrible, and I hope that you have found a way through whatever was hurting you that caused you to hurt me, and I hope that
Mhm.
you find the light and that your life is better someday. But I'm not going to think about you anymore. I'm not going to let what you did to me change
Right.
me or bother me anymore. And I just
Mhm.
wanted you to know that. And that is a statement. I have people write it down. Please don't mail those letters to Dear Bill. He doesn't get the letter. You write the letter for you so that you can resolve it, no matter how horrible. That was a sexual abuse right there that I was talking about. Um, I have a friend who was sexually abused by her father and her family from the age of 2. And
Mhm.
when she wrote her letters, some got forgiveness and others got just what I did. It's like, I hope
Mhm.
that you find some light someday and that your life
Mhm.
changes for the better. And that, for the person who's been injured, for the person carrying that grief, being able to write that down and make that bold statement that you're simply just not going to let it bother you anymore is powerful.
Mhm.
We don't want to do it because we don't want to face it. Remember, you waller in your grief. Why? Because
Mhm.
it's comfortable there.
It's easier. Right.
It's
Right.
easier.
Yeah, that is, I love that exercise. I actually did it with my aunt as well, because she got sick. Well, she was fighting an 11-year battle with cancer and was cancer free for 7 years. And then, so we were like, okay, she got through it. And then COVID hit. She wasn't able to get all of her treatments. And then, of course, the stress just from COVID and everything else, and that her health started to deteriorate. So, November 2020, she sort of stopped talking to the family. She passed January 2021.
Oh,
So we didn't get a chance to say goodbye, of course. And why is that letter so important? And you're right. Sometimes I tell my clients this too. You don't even have to read it to the person. You can just burn it
oh,
after. Why
yeah.
do you think it's so important, that exercise to do? Because I love it. That's one of the things that I highly recommend anyone.
It's a powerful, it's and I had to get a master's degree, and I'm working on my PhD right now in traumatology and crisis and trauma. I'll be a traumatologist. Isn't that fun? But I had to go through all of that to learn that everything that I knew, that I
Mhm.
learned through just my grief recovery, didn't change. That those kind of affirmations and statements on pen and paper or stated out loud, and especially if you're able to share them with someone besides the perpetrator. Don't call Bill and go, hey, Bill, I got something I got to read to you.
Right.
Not, that is not healthy. That is detrimental for your mental health. So don't go there. But that ability to jot down what happened and then share it one-on-one, a dyad, one trusted person, it's like there's something evil inside of you and you're purging it. And you can almost feel it come out of you. I mean, I did. And a lot of the folks that I teach, I taught 8 ladies last week, all between the ages of 55 and 70. And everyone had a private story. Everyone had a burden they were carrying. And there were a lot of tears and laughter at the end of it. And I really feel that when you unburden yourself of what's been gripping you, controlling you, and holding you down, you feel free. You happening. That's why it's so powerful. We're afraid to face it. That's, facing the bad guys is tough. I wrote letters to money. I wrote letters to the grade school bully that picked on me when I was little. I wrote it to my ex-husband, to a boyfriend, to my mom. My dear mom was really like 4 pages long. And I forgave her for everything because I learned a lot about her in my research for my book that really, when you read at the end, I do resolve for mom. And so for me, and she had been passed away, but I wrote that letter. The letter is not for the person that hurt you or the thing that you've been through. It's for you. It's for your soul, for your mental health, and it works.
It does. I so agree. I love it. And I see that, you said, you mentioned fun, and, I sense a sense of humor with you. How much does humor play a role in this, and when is it appropriate?
You know what? I do stand up also.
Yeah.
I just can't help it. My whole goal is to make people laugh because there's medicine in laughter.
Yes.
Chemical brain reactions alone are firing off, and you can get through just about everything else if you have a smile on your face. The truth is there's multiple things that you can do to get yourself on the path. I talk about, just to get it really quick, I talk about my 7 to heal, right? And this, you can go to my website, goldscars.com, more than one scar, and get that resource for free. I don't charge for that. You can buy the book also if you want to, discount, great, but you can get that for free. I'll give you the entire layout of Gold Scars and 7 to Heal. But the first one is help. We talked about that. I'm going to get that courage, that strength. I'm going to step forward, and then healing, that mindset that you're going to take care of yourself. And this is the day that you're going to make that big difference, right? That's that adaptability. Healthy is the third one. And that is the decision that you're going to identify what's in your life that's making you unhealthy. And you're going to change that. Like, don't take a picture of your plate and put it on Facebook if it has corn, potatoes, a bun, and a piece of meat. That is not. Those are carbohydrates, and they're not good for you in high quantities. And yet I talk to people all the time. It's like, what's on your plate? Just tell me what's on your plate. Change the way you eat. You can change the way you think. It works that way. And you want to look really good at 63. Eat good food. Smile a lot. And don't put junk in your face, right? That's, just self-care, taking care of yourself. And hope, because a lot of people give up hope. They don't think that there's ability for them to do anything. And I discuss moving on and memory, honoring the memory of someone, but hope versus toxic positivity. Hope feels like, what is it you have hope for? And I've talked to women that go, you know what, Sylvia, I don't even think I have hope for anything. It's like, yes, you do. You just haven't searched deep enough. You hope you have a good day. You hope the sun comes out and not the clouds. You hope that you can get some baby chickens and maybe have eggs. There's all kinds of things you can hope for. Get creative, hope for something, because that's another chemical in your brain. Looking forward. Holiness is what I call finding sacredness in your scars, embracing meaning, making spirituality. It means being worthy, because we don't feel worthy. We feel dirty when we've been abused, when we've been hurt, or when we've been injured, when we've gone through grief, when we've lost someone and we don't even understand why. We feel bad. So very important that you feel worthy. And there's happy. Call it giving yourself permission to feel joy, because glum gets you attention. Sadness on Facebook gets you lots of likes, right?
Yes, yes.
So negative. It's so unhealthy. I can't imagine telling you what you're putting yourself through by putting your dirty laundry on Facebook. Stop doing that. Do something joyful. Take pictures of cute things, and post those. But being happy because you deserve to laugh. Find something funny and reclaim your joy. Watch a funny movie. Tell a joke or something. But there's thousands of reasons and ways that you can be happy. In my book, I give you a long list. There's 100 things that can cause grief, for children moving across town, the death of a death of a grandparent, or, abuse. Simple things sometimes cause grief. You lose your job, you're grieving your job if you liked your job.
Right.
There's also 100 things that can make you smile. Purposely wanting to be glum is not solving your problem. Nobody on Facebook really is going to care 15 minutes after they like that post, so stop. Do something to make yourself happy. You're wasting brain. And then laughter as resilience is called hilarious. That's the bonus number 7 in the 7 to heal. And when can you be hilarious? When can you laugh your ass off? I mean, honestly, anytime it actually naturally happens, it can.
Yeah.
I'm the morning of my son's funeral. They're still out searching for the guy that killed him. He was a stranger. They don't know where he is. They're still searching for him. My family is flying in from all over the country to come to Georgia for the funeral. And my brother and his wife and his ex-wife, who's my friend Kim, walk in, and we're all sitting there in the kitchen talking. And my brother says that they sat together. They didn't realize that they booked the same flight, his wife and him and his ex-wife, and they sat side by side on the first row of the Delta down to Georgia, right? And so the steward found out about it. And he was going to poke some fun on them, the threesome. And he said to the crowd, he says, is anybody flying today with their wife by chance? And a lot of people raised their hands. And then he said, well, is anybody flying today with their ex-wife by chance? Of course, there was a lot of chuckling, and only my brother raised his hand. And then he stood up and he took the microphone from the steward and he said, we tried to get my girlfriend on this flight, but she's coming on the next one down. And everybody on that plane just cracked up, and they had to tell the pilot, and it was just a big joke all the way down. Well, my brother told that story the morning of the funeral right before we left, and guess what we all did? We laughed into tears. It was hilarious. And it was okay because the timing was right? And because it was funny. It was really, really funny. I tell stupid mom jokes all the time. I make people laugh, and the kids pick on me, and we make each other laugh. And that kind of laughter is good medicine. It's the best medicine. Even a fake smile creates a chemical reaction in your brain. Can you imagine laughing at a funny movie? What that's doing for you, brain and your health.
Thank you for that. I'm actually just publishing my first ebook, and it's affirmations with a cheeky twist.
Nice.
It's your typical affirmation, which is very serious, because I'm like you. I think healing it's so serious anyway. It's like really serious work. I think if you can add a little bit of a cheeky twist to it, it can lighten the whole process, but also make it more memorable. So all of my affirmations, there's 111 of them, have a cheeky twist to it so that it's a lot more memorable. So it's interesting how we're on the same page with
I love that.
Yeah.
It's funny how it's very simple things that can make you feel good. I tell in the book, if you have there's no one around, you have nothing to do, and you're trying to find a way to be happy, have you ever opened a door for someone? You have, haven't you, right? How does it make you feel?
Yeah, great.
It makes you feel really good. So get in your car, drive across town, go to the mall, and open that door for everybody that walks in, and just look at how good it makes you feel. If you need something creative to do to give you a smile on your face, go help somebody else. Play it forward, pay it forward rather. Just a little bit. Go do something. Walk your neighbor's dog,
Yeah, something.
1,000 things you can do that joy instead of sadness. And those are choices that we make. And that's part of the member strength, courage. First 2 steps to scarring, and then adaptability and resilience follow hand in hand. And that's what makes us scar or mend.
Yes, exactly. So it's interesting because when I'm super happy and I feel good and joyful, and my parents give me so much, like they give me so much hell, really, And then once they see that I have a headache or I'm not well, then they're like, okay, okay, we'll leave you alone. And I'm like, really? So sometimes I fake it, Sylvia. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I have a headache. Leave me alone. Stop bugging me with things, because that's when it's that sympathy or empathy, whatever it is, that comes through. And I think that's when we were talking about people on Facebook. It's
Yeah,
yes, we love that. And I think it's our amygdala, right? It's like that part
it
of
is.
the
It
brain
is.
that
Yeah, and
craves.
it's dopamine that we get from it, and it's like alcohol or a drug.
Mhm.
You need that dopamine, and it goes away really fast. It's like, gone a minutes or two after and you're checking your phone every 5 seconds to see if anybody another like
Yeah,
dopamine charges, and that's a very negative way to get a very healthy chemical into your brain. You
great.
need to replace it with something more permanent.
You talked about positive, no, what is it? Toxic positivity. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, anything that takes you to an extreme or is that a lie is toxic, and even over positivity can do that as well. And
Mhm.
I think we're not dealing with the things that are wrong. We're not dealing with our scars. We're not, trying to mend, and we're wallowing around in that. Just like I said before, anything that hurts you is a negative, and
Mm.
it can even be something that you think is good.
Right, right. So, how do you handle the saying that everything happens for you? Like, do you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great when there's a great learning lesson from a challenge that you overcame, but I mean, what you went through, how does that all happen for you?
Yes. So, I'm a godly woman. I was created by a God above, but he didn't write a book about me before I lived my life. He didn't say, one day someone's going to murder her son. But I don't believe God did that too. I don't think that's viable. It doesn't make sense to me. It's illogical. Even if you don't believe in God, which you should, even if you don't, there's no way things are predestined in that fashion in my brain, right? Um, here's an example. I go to the funeral, right? And we broke grief. We just broke it about 100 years ago. Grandma would die. We'd put her in the parlor at her house, and we would
Mm.
all go and we'd have food, and the kids would play outside or come inside and say their goodbyes to grandma. But she would be laid out there, and we would laugh and talk about the funny things that grandma did when she was alive, and cry a little. And that's how that's how we did a funeral. Fast forward to today's date, what do? We go to a strange building, we drag the kids in, we stick them in the kitchen at the funeral parlor that they stole from grandma, and then they eat cookies and candy all day, and then half of them don't even end up coming into the funeral parlor to see grandma before she dies. And we're not modeling grief in that fashion.
Mm.
We're just not telling that. But then, to even make matters worse, we take the parents or the wife or the niece, and we sit them right there next to the coffin. And for hours, people come up to say something really stupid to you, like, Jacob's in a better place. Is he? God needed Jacob in heaven. Yeah. There's another angel in heaven. And I'm like, no, no, there's not. It's like, and my favorite one was Jacob's work on earth was done. And I'm like, he was a teenager. What was he working on? And why did he finish so soon? And furthermore, the God I serve lost his son, just like I did. God didn't wake up on December the 6th, 2000 and say, I need Jacob up here stat, and I don't care how you do.
Mm.
That's my belief on those types of things. We give too much blame and credit to a being that does not think that way. That's the way our brains have told us to deal with it, and historically how we've been given grief and how we are supposed to deal with that. And we need to stop and start modeling grief to our children
Mm.
now, and let them know what grief is really like, because grieving is a normal part of life.
Mhm.
When we make it abnormal, we make it unhealthy for us. A better way to grieve. I didn't need a way to forget what happened to my son or to me. I
Mm.
needed a better way to remember.
Mm.
And that's grief recovery.
So, in terms of, yeah, this is incredible. What do you think? Because that's how we do it in Italy, by the way, in small towns at least. we
Some
still,
cultures still do.
yeah, we still,
Yeah.
it's in the house, you know, and all the kids get to see it. So then how do we explain it to our kids, to the children?
You know, I think we model grief by our actions. I think children are smarter than we give them credit.
Yeah.
I knew my grandmother had died when I was little. I saw my dad reaching into her grave and touching her. There wasn't a lot of explaining, which I wish there would have been more, but I understood what was going on even at a
Mhm.
very young age. And I knew that I wouldn't see her again. And
Mhm.
that was really tough on me. I wish someone had said to me, as a child, that, and before, well, I'll put in perspective, when you give a dog to a child, a young
Mm.
child, the time to talk about the very short life of canines is when you give the dog to the child, not after the dog is passed while they're still young. You understand?
Mm.
So those life lessons of life is short. We're going to live it to the fullest. We're going to enjoy grandma every minute that she's here, because there's a time coming in the future that she may pass on. In our family, we would say that she's going to be in the Lord's hands, right? And not saying it's a better place, don't word it that way, but letting them know that this is a normal part of life. Getting married,
Mhm.
babies, passing on are normal. Those are hard words for us to say as a parent, but it's true.
Mhm.
And you use those small opportunities when you've lost someone or lost a pet, and you use those to model grief so that that child has in their brain now an understanding that this is going to happen. It's not
Yeah. Finite.
probable. Yeah, it's not possible. It's probable, and it's going to happen, right? And I
Yeah.
think that we plan them ahead of time for that loss.
Yeah.
There'll
Yeah.
still be grief, by the way. There'll still be tears. There'll still be loss, but normal grief like that goes away. That level of grief starts to go away a little about 30 days in. If you're still traumatized and grieving after 30 days, and I don't mean that you're going to be cured from grief in 30 days. I just mean if the trauma is just as bad then as it was at the beginning, you could have PTSD. It's time for you to talk to a specialist, a counselor.
Mhm.
But typically you start feeling a little better. Hard
Mhm.
to say at about 30 days, but honestly, it takes 6 months, 6 years. Each
Yeah.
person is different.
Everyone's different depending on how close you were to the person as well, right?
And what kind of help you get, or how, like you said, how deeply that relationship was, deep relationship.
Mhm.
But society does victim blaming, and they don't even know they do it. So I'll put it in perspective. I got attacked in my driveway. Someone that's thinking about that would say to themselves, if that was me, that wouldn't have happened to me. I would have looked over my shoulder more. I would have ran first. I would have gotten away. And they don't realize they're thinking that, but they really are. When you lose someone, they go, well, that wouldn't have happened to my family. My son wouldn't have been driving home. I mean, he was 19 in college. Of course he's driving home,
Right.
from a friend's house to come home to put a Christmas tree up the next day. Normal. But they think in a different way that would not happen to them. So
Mhm.
society gives us about 6 weeks, and that's it.
Mhm.
Well, I've had people walk up to me years after Jacob was murdered and say, what's going on? You okay? And go, yeah, no, I'm just thinking about Jacob. It's his birthday. And they go, still, it's like, yeah.
Mhm.
And every birthday until, I see him again. But society doesn't give us time for that kind of grief. And I think we need to model that as well and teach people. It's like, hey, grief takes a long time and each person is different and there is no healing. You don't heal from grief, you mend.
Mhm. Yeah,
Never forget. I'll never forget my son.
of
He will never
course.
be over him.
Exactly. Yeah. And,
You'll never get over your aunt, ever.
it's so true. And I had another person talk about grief, and she's eloquently put it that you just live, you never get over it. You just live alongside it. Just
Yeah.
learn how to just live with it. And it's true because the absence that I felt so strong from my aunt is now a loving presence in my heart.
Yeah.
So so I'm living, alongside it. So it's beautiful. It really is. And it took definitely, now that I think about it, yeah, just over a month, I think, just to get, and that's why I actually started breath work and started doing breath work, because we hold grief, according to Chinese medicine, in our lungs.
I
So,
believe.
yeah. So the more you can breathe and just let it out, get that get those emotional blockages out of your body, then you feel lighter. And that's the reason, Sylvia, that I'm doing breath work today, is because I was able to mend the grieving that I was feeling and actually reconnect with my aunt through the breath work. So yeah, it's been quite
we mend real scars and scars on the heart.
Yeah.
On the mind, scars around our body. We can point to physical scars and go, well, that's where I shouldn't have put my arm in the stove so far. And this is where I had 3 C-sections and the other doctor just followed the dotted line. Yeah. But we can show those scars off, but we can also share those scars on the heart like you just did.
So
that's a beautiful testimony.
It is. It is. So what are some misconceptions? And maybe we can start with what not to say at a funeral. I know you talk about these guidelines in your book, these practical guidelines. So what not to say at a funeral? And I'm actually, I do have one coming up on Wednesday. And what are some other common misconceptions about grief?
Okay, so I have a whole section in my book. I actually call it the middle eight halftime show, whatever you want to call it in there. I make fun. And I just stop people and go, there's no words in the English language. We don't have it. I think that's on purpose. I think there's nothing. I mean, the closest we can get is my condolences, which is a horrible word meant for strangers to say when they found out you lost one. My condolences for your loss. Very formal, right? Or we get a card with a bunch of cliches in it and it's crap, right? Or we say stupid things like, he's in a better place and you'll get over it. Is a good one. You're going to get past this. The hell I am.
Oh no, right?
Get out of my way.
I just say I'm sorry. I just like
that's about all we can say. I've heard a lot of people use other words that were very beautiful. I try to picture myself saying those to someone who just had lost their child or their spouse, and I find it hard to say. But there are, I hope that you find strength in the next couple of days. Okay, that sounds great until you're there, right? I didn't want to think about that, but almost everybody had something to say. The other trick is when you're at the funeral and you're the receiver of those words, you accept them lovingly and you thank people for them. Thank you for your kind words. I really appreciate it. I do. It's not until later when you're going, did she really tell me? So be careful what you say. Don't stand in line for 2 hours trying to think of something creative to say because you're not going to. Why don't you just say, I love you. I'm here for you. And if you need anything in the next couple of weeks, you just let me know or after. And then mean that. Don't fake it because everybody gives up on the griever, remember? In about 6 weeks, it's called the honeymoon stage. In grief and trauma, as a traumatologist, they teach you that those first 6 weeks when there's a tragedy, when the floods hit, the hurricanes tore up towns, everybody wants to be a part of it. They send food and they send water and the president comes in for a photo op and celebrities start doing fundraisers and bands. And it's just great, right? And then the 6 weeks or so it ends, and then the disillusion stage hits. And that's when the big PTSD, boom, hits the victims because there's no one there now. Nobody. Everybody went home. They go, you had your 6 weeks. We're done with you. Good luck. And they move on. And so if you're standing at a funeral and you tell that parent, if you need anything, you contact me. Here's my number. Mean it.
Yeah.
Because they're going to need you in about 6 weeks, 6 months, maybe even 6 years. And if you made that promise, keep that promise. Or say, I'm sorry for your loss. Hug them and move on. The greatest thing you can do is what I call presentness. It's a made up word. Just be there. Give them a hug. Tell them I love you, and then move out of the way. And mean that also. Don't be present if you're not going to. I had a girlfriend. Her name's Sherry, and Sherry is a chatty talker. She's a Kathy, right? She's like, she's watching this. She knows. Sorry, it's the truth. You never shut up, and I love you for that. But when Jacob died, Sherry would just come over and sit on the couch next to me and wouldn't say a word to me. She would wait for me to talk. And that was so out of character for her. But I called it presentness. And, for that, I am forever grateful for her for that ability. Because one night at 2:30 in the morning, I couldn't think of who to call. And guess who I called? Sherry. And guess what she did? She drove across town at 2:30 in the morning and sat on my couch with me again months later. So be that kind of friend for someone who's had a loss. Be present for them. You don't have to use words. Their house is on fire. Bring water, not words.
Yes, I love that. Even beyond words.
Yeah, just present, be present. You said something that kind of spurred me. May I indulge?
Yes.
You said that grief is inside of us. And I tell people that I'm never going to get rid of grief. Grief is just a part of me. My second book comes out pretty soon from Morgan James Publishers in New York, and it's called The Pear Tree and the Mistletoe. And if I can I read you the first few paragraphs of that book?
Yes, sure.
Because it kind of sums up what you said. So, okay. In the middle of an open field on my small farm stands a flourishing little pear tree. It blooms with beautiful blossoms in spring and hums with birdsong through the summer. But what makes it truly special, what makes it mine, is not just its beauty, it's what lives within it. Because woven through its branches, growing alongside of it, is mistletoe, bright green and very much alive. They thrive together. A few years ago, I placed a metal bench at the base of that tree, and it wraps gently around the trunk like an embrace, a place where I can sit beneath the canopy, no matter the season. I go there to breathe, to listen, to remember. And in those quiet moments, I look up and I see two plants growing as one: mistletoe and the little pear tree, grief and me.
Right. Beautiful.
And that's the
Yes.
beginning of that book, and that is what it's about. Yeah. So I tell people grief is in my bones, just like the tree. The grief is in the foundation branches of that tree. Grief,
Grow alongside it. Yeah.
as long as you keep it pruned, and as long as you don't let grief take over the tree, they can live together. And one nurtures the other by falling to the ground and giving nutrients, and the other provides a home. And so grief is going to be with you, making that grief part of you, but not letting it be you.
Yeah, I get that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And excited to read your next book.
Thank you. It's been fun to get to this point with it.
Yeah, exactly. So much love you're giving us. In terms of advice for someone who may be stuck in that in the grief, or maybe even the trauma, the PTSD, what advice would you give them?
PTSD is in many cases non-curable. You can get better from PTSD. There's some people that are claiming they're in remission. I believe that. I believe that I am, but something can still trigger me. I think getting help with the serious issues that you have from your loss and your grief, and having a counselor, and making sure that that's a person that's handy and that you continue to see. Because I think that's very important. It doesn't have to be a medical physician. It can be somebody that specializes in just PTSD, a trauma person. But I think that's very important as a start. But people that are stuck in their grief are there because they're afraid to get out of it. They're afraid of having to face those traumas again, because we are really good at suppressing.
Right.
Our brain does that as a way to protect us, basically. So we tend to try to forget things, or we remember them differently than they really occurred. And that is a self-preservation in your brain, right? But also there is that adaptability. We are naturally resilient and adaptable. We can change. We can pivot. And I think if you know that right now and you go, wow, I didn't know that that was really true. Yes, it's really true. Then you do have the power to start making that change and dealing with your issues of grief one at a time. I didn't just go into my grief recovery and settle all those problems. It took a long time because, I thought I was going in to grieve the loss of my son. I ended up dealing with my mother's relationship with me first.
Right.
And then I worked my way up to that one. So it's amazing what we don't know about ourselves, and still we turn around and really look and say, what is it that I'm still dealing with from childhood, early relationships, and start resolving those issues in your heart and your mind. Being stuck is it's a truism. It's really a true thing. People do get stuck in grief. Dealing with the grief head on, writing to it and saying, look, grief, I'm done with you. You have dragged me down, held me down, controlled me, and told me how I'm going to act in public for the last blank years. And I'm not going to let you do that anymore. I'm taking control. of my life, and it's going to be different starting today. Those are words that you say that you mean to yourself, and they're powerful.
Yeah, agree. Going back to the letter, super
Absolutely.
important.
Very important.
So,
and don't mail it to the Dear John guy.
yeah. No. I say burn it. Just burn it. Rip it up into pieces.
Find somebody that you really love and trust and have them write a letter about something that's grieving them as well, right? And then you take turns not touching each other, but keeping that emotion barrier, because you touch someone while they're sharing, they can't feel the emotion anymore. It goes away. So you don't want to touch them. You don't want to go, oh, I know how you feel. You want to shut up and listen. Take turns reading those letters, and now you can burn them. That ability to read that letter out loud with someone will bring tears to you, and they're meant to happen. That's resolving that grief from that event.
Why is touching? Can you explain that a little more?
Yeah, if someone is trying to read their letter and you reach out and touch them, you stop the emotion that was building behind the letter. You've got to let that person feel what they're reading, and they're going to cry. When I teach grief recovery and I read my letters, I've read many, many times as samples, I still cry. As long as no one reaches out and tries to hug me or says me or interrupts me, I will naturally cry. That is normal, and that's what you want. You want those tears. That is really dealing with the pain, and you deserve to be able to cry. That's why I say one person only, sitting quietly, don't touch each other. You read your letter, dear mom. Those times when I was a child and I saw my friends sitting on their mom's laps and holding their hands, and they would tell me how their mom braided their hair. I missed that with you. You didn't do that for me, and I really wished you had. And then my letter goes on. Well, I'm already welling up just telling you that part of that letter. If you reached out to try to hug me or console me, that would end it.
Right. And it's interesting. So after my breathwork experience, we do a sharing circle, and I do not interfere. I don't say, oh, yes, I don't. It's just, you are sharing what you experience. And I just say, I thank them. And then I just go on to the next person. I've been to sharing circles where it's a therapy session. And I'm just like, oh, it just doesn't feel right.
Not right.
It's not right. Yes, exactly. Or oh, I'm sorry. And even the facilitator's face is like going to cry. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, it didn't feel right. Now I know. Okay. Cause it's trauma-informed stuff, right?
Thank you. And that therapy's nice, and group share is great, and group think is great, but it creates that dopamine when you don't really want it at that point. So now you're back to Facebook. You might as well just post that shit on Facebook. It has the same effect, right?
Right.
So, but that silence and not interfering, and it's okay if they're crying and you're crying. It's okay to cry. Just no words, no touching, and sit as quietly as possible and hear every word that person has to say, and not, the affirmations are for when you're both done and you leave the room and you come back and you're sitting in the group and you're hugging each other and crying.
Exactly.
That's when it's time for that.
That's after the fact that it's done. Exactly. And yes, great. So what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given that really helped you through these years?
Wow. So that's interesting. I'd say, let me give it a thought really quick, because it's a lot of everything and a lot of all of it, but that my ability to deal with my grief was basically there the entire time. And I felt like Dorothy, and I looked down at the shoes and said, have you really been down there this whole time? And I think that funny analogy with Dorothy really hit home with me, because once she realized she had the shoes, now it's just a yellow brick road, right?
Right.
Now you have the power, and you had it with you the entire time. And that's why I use scar as an analogy. It's the strength and the courage, the adaptability and the resilience. They're already there. They're pre-wired into your makeup. Your human mental brain, your whole body was created to do that. We scar for a reason, but the ability to heal ourselves, to mend from wounds, mental, physical, emotional, that power is inside of you right now. It's really just a matter of owning it, taking it on. And that was a powerful realization that, oh my God, I could have done this 5 years ago, not now.
But then maybe you wouldn't be where you are today, helping people teaching it to people. Yes. And that's why I love having conversations like these, because it's the awareness, right? Maybe people don't know about this. Most people don't know how to deal
Yeah,
with
they
it.
don't.
That's
We
why I
don't
love
teach it. It's not something that we teach our children or model to our children. So
Yes.
start now, modeling
Mhm.
it to your children and your grandchildren, so
Hmm.
that when they face a great trauma in life, that they will more easily come through that. There's a lot of trauma in this world, a lot of people hurting other people. Can't solve for that, but I can say to someone that's been abused or sexual abuse or injured in some ungodly way that there is still hope and happiness and even a little hilariousness. You know, you got to feel holy, you got to feel worthy, and you have to make those decisions that you are going to get help, that you are going to heal, and that you're going to be healthy. And starting today, your life is going to change. It's amazing what kind of chemical reaction just saying that out loud to yourself will be.
Yes. Yes.
Just knowing you're on the right path.
Mhm. Yeah. And taking that first step to in doing so. So what we do, Sylvia, is we all of the recommended reads that you give us, all the guests, we put it together, and at the end of the series, or not the series, at the end of the actual episode year, we just share that with our guests, with our people that are following us. So, what is the most influential book that you've ever read? And
Wow. Well, I don't know if you can tell, but
yeah,
there's like 5 million
yes,
books in my repertoire. And if I had to, I think the one that I've been reading right now is the C.S. Lewis grief book that he writes about when he lost his wife, because it's so simple. Did I put it back here? Let me see. The grief shared. I got all of his set behind me. I'm going to read through all of those. I had to order them. I am a paperback, hardback book. I
yeah,
love ebooks. I do. And if you buy my book, you get my ebook free, but I like to hold it
yeah.
in hand and manipulate it. But that book by C.S. Lewis about grief, and it has a study guide that comes with it too. I just found that out. Um, how he dealt with the death of his wife and grief. And he said, no one told me that grief looked just like fear.
Mm,
And that first line on page 3 of his book, when he says that, it just grabbed me. You know, it's like, wow, yeah, that's true. Grief is fear. You go through all of those emotions, but it's more than that. He continues to say how it changed his life, how he felt, what it did to him. And I think he explains grief wonderfully. So I just say that's the one I'm reading now.
Yeah, when it's tough, that's what I say. What's the one you're reading now? Because yeah, when
Yes,
it's tough to
Limits a
choose.
Grief Shared. Yeah, that's a good one. And it's a really fast read,
Thank
and
yeah.
he's a brilliant writer. So it makes it.
Thank you. So what are your top 3 non-negotiable self-care habits that you do on a daily basis?
Yes. I wake up every morning and I don't turn on the TV. I don't get on Facebook. I do no social media. I just read something. The Bible, whatever I'm bound to read, I'm reading something. I try to stay away from classwork in the morning. My books came for my PhD and they stand about 3 feet tall when you stand.
Right.
And I don't read any of those. I don't read emails. And for me, that's non negotiable. That's my time and my spirit by myself. There might be a dog or 2 or 3 in my lap. But besides that, I don't even engage with my husband. He does the same thing in his own little world. And we're in the same room, but we're doing
Yeah.
for a second. And until the first person stands up and asks the other one, we're in that silent stage. It can be an hour, half an hour, but I get up between 4:30 and 5 every morning, sometimes 4. I have a coffee maker set for 4. I am addicted to coffee, I'll admit it. I won't give it up. No one can make me. I'm 63 years old. I'm not getting any younger, and I will have my coffee.
I love it too.
A lot of people, so it's like, "Oh, it's so unhealthy." No, it's not. I don't care. People don't care.
It depends, I say.
That's right.
It's healthy for some and maybe unhealthy for others. But yeah,
But
if it's
that's
making you
not
feel good, then yes.
enjoy it. I sip on that coffee. I don't do not 1 cup. That's it. I'm not
Exactly.
I don't like
Yeah.
I don't have any of those giant things that the other girls have. It's like it costs you $30 and you fill it to the top. Crazy.
I know.
But yeah, that would be a crutch for me. But
Mm,
non-negotiable. Getting up early is non-negotiable. Is that goes hand in hand with going to bed early. Getting
yeah.
enough sleep. I guess is what I should say. I like to get 7 or 8 hours of sleep if I can do it. If you plan, you can do anything. And then I don't eat junk food. That's just non-negotiable. When I cheat on my diet, I will, like we go to a movie. Yeah, but I usually try to stay in ketosis as much as possible.
Mhm.
My entire body, brain, face, wrinkles, everything changed. 2018, Adam and I were both a little chubby. We were adorable, but we were chubby. And he comes home and says, "We're going to try this thing called keto." And I went, "All right, fine, let's go." Anything he wants, I say, "Oh, usually it's a good idea." He's the one with the psychology degree. I got traumatology. So we tried it, and it was no turning back for me. Anytime I go out of ketosis, I start feeling horrible.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a no. My spiritual quiet time
Mm-hmm.
in the morning. Eating right and sleeping enough, is part of that. So those are non-negotiable for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those. What is your legacy, Sylvia? What do you want to be known for?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, a lot of what I do for free for people. I do charge for some classes, and my books obviously my publisher would be mad if I gave them all away. But I want people to know me as being, that happy autistic person who, no matter what I've been through, and I mean, when you read the book, if there's anything that can happen bad to a person, it's happened to me. And here I am laughing, but I want people to remember me as being happy no matter what I went through. And that for me is enough.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. So where can people connect with you if they want to get to know you more, follow you, and of course, buy your book?
Sure. Goldscars.com. Really simple. Go there. I have a link tree, which I'll give you. They can find everything about me, but my blood type, I'm A positive, just in case you need to know. But goldscars.com, it's the name of the book. It's not hard to find. If you find this, you'll find me. I have another website, Sylvia Moore Myers. There's different assets on there that may not be on Gold Scars yet, but eventually everything will be Gold Scars and only Gold Scars. But that would be the best place to start. There's links to all my social media there, my books. There's a free resource you can download today. And then you'll get my weekly newsletter starting on Tuesday of next week. Every morning it posts. I've pre-written those now for about 6 months out, and I'm writing the next 6 months now. I do look at all of them, though, and update them. I don't just send you a bunch of crap. I write it all myself. And it deals with, grief, loss, trauma, whatever the subject of the day. And I try to make it fun. I don't want anybody to go through grief recovery and not at least laugh once or twice. So I do make them fun.
Okay.
And those are all free resources.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I'm so, so grateful that you took the time to talk to us and share your amazing story of, strength, adaptability, resilience. And it's just been such a delight to have you here. I so, so, so appreciate you. And I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for tuning in to the Self-Care Goddess podcast. If today's episode inspired you, share it with another woman who's ready to reclaim her vitality and lead from within. To continue your journey, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with me on ritasavoya.com. Until next time, remember, self-care isn't selfish, it's your superpower. Take a deep breath in, exhale, and keep rising. Ciao for now.